Good evening. Welcome. It's so nice to see so many faces. As I was joking before, we never had anybody come to our council meeting, and we love to see residents and we love to talk to residents. So it's really nice to be able to talk to everybody and have a casual meeting like this where there's no formal, getting up at the dais, stating your name, things like that. Before we get started, I want to introduce or have them introduce themselves, my amazing team, your amazing council. And so everybody knows who they are and what they do. Like, we all have our own little buckets that we work in the borough, but we all actually do work with each other and help each other. So starting with Mr. O'Toole.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Matt O'Toole. I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee, meaning that we oversee police, fire, ambulance, and CERT.
And I'm Liz Holman, and I am water and sewer. So any water sewer questions you have, I'm happy to chat about that at any time, tonight or otherwise.
I am Ed O'Connell, and I'm on facilities with Tyler.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Tyler Yacarino. I'm the chair of the Facilities, Parks, and Recreation Committee. I'm also co-chair of the Public Safety Committee with Councilman O'Toole.
Hi, everyone. I'm Suzanne Solo. I'm the chairperson of the Finance, Admin, and HR Committee. I'm also the chairperson of the Land Use Committee. And I just want to back up Liz Holman when she says she's really excited to talk about water and sewer.
All day.
So don't want these meetings to be formal. However, there was a lot of people that had a big interest in our fair share housing. And I think it's an extremely important topic that we're going to talk about. I think it's very important for Allendale, and it's also very important for New Jersey. So the objective tonight is to just start informing you, because this is going to be a process, and we're going to be talking about this a lot. So it's just really to inform you, so everybody's aware, and it's really, really important that everybody is aware of what is happening in our state. And then after that, we can open it up to question and answers on affordable housing, or quite frankly on anything. We do have a list of some questions that people wanted to know about, so we're happy to address those as well as long as we can. So I just want to start by saying there's definitely a need for affordable housing in New Jersey. I don't think anybody can argue with that. Our seniors are no longer to live in our town, and young people, quite frankly, can't afford to buy their first starter home in like towns, in a lot of New Jersey towns. So the issue is not that we don't need affordable housing. The issue is that there is a process and a mechanism that poses a lot of challenges for towns like us. And I just wanted to briefly go through the history. I'm not going to get caught up on all the dates and numbers, and if anybody wants more detailed information, I do have all this. But I think it's important for everybody to know how it all started. So it started basically in 1975 in a town in South Jersey called Mount Laurel, where there was people living in poverty, and the mayor there at the time was like, you know what, I don't really care about them, and they can go find somewhere else to live. I don't want them to move my town if they can't afford it, go take a hike. And that started this whole entire thing. And that obviously was not a very nice thing to do. And of course, they lost the lawsuit, and that started what we called Mount Laurel 1. So the Supreme Court basically said that all municipalities have to provide some sort of low-income housing, and nobody did anything. They really didn't have great direction, and basically there was no compliance. So then in 1988, the Supreme Court, because there was no compliance, they enabled builders to do what's called the builder's remedy, where they said, you know what, hey, Allendale, hey, Montvale, hey, Upside River, you're not complying. Hey, builder, go over there, sue them, and you will win. So if you didn't comply and you didn't say that you were going to build a certain amount of housing that the formula that they gave you, the builders then would swoop in and they would have a builder's lawsuit. Actually, Allendale had a builder's lawsuit back in, gosh, the Joe Mack lawsuit, I think. Somebody help me, 80s maybe even the 80s. So pretty much every town in New Jersey had a builder's lawsuit. So then in around 85, the New Jersey Fair Housing Act, not to be confused with Fair Share Housing Center, which we'll be talking about momentarily, enacted a system, and this is where they brought up upon COA. So COA is a word that we probably have all heard, Council of Affordable Housing. So COA was formed to actually help municipalities implement these rules. And it was a kind of a fair board. They had some municipalities, they had some judges on there, so everybody was represented when they had COA. So COA lasted about 2 decades, and they had what was called rounds. We had first round, second round, and third round, and they were all different, and they were all confusing. So what happened was towns really didn't comply because they just didn't understand what they were supposed to do. So a couple other important dates to note, and just to note that to show also how we've just had such failure in our leadership throughout all of these years because nobody wanted to touch this topic. And it's really quite frankly gotten to a point where we're in a little bit of a situation here in our state. In 2008, Governor Corzine abolished what we called regional contribution agreement. And regional contribution agreement was when you build some affordable housing, but you also give money to the cities. So the cities are the hubs where the economy is, and the suburbs are the suburbs. So it was kind of like a nice little balance, but it got a bad rap saying, okay, it's kind of like the not in my backyard type of mentality. And so he abolished it completely. And then in 2010, the third round of COA was basically abolished too because it was so confusing. And then Governor Christie, about the same time, abolished COA altogether. So during that time, it was just kind of a big mess. Towns really didn't know what to do. Then the Supreme Court in about 2013 said, guess what? Christie, you're not allowed to abolish COA. And so then the Supreme Court came back again. So now in 2015, this is when everything hit the fan because the courts basically said that the legislature, they failed to take action, the courts are taking over, and that's when we got these astronomical numbers. And we had a deadline in July of 2015 to satisfy what was called the third round. And the third round was this number that we'll show you in a bit. But the third round was just this number that we couldn't even believe we had to deal with. There's still a lot of towns that haven't even started their third round. There's still a lot of towns that are in lawsuits with their third round. And guess what? The third round now is expired in 2024. And in the beginning of 2025, January 31st, we have to give our fourth round numbers. So just when a lot of people are building, and I mean, if you look all around, you can't not see all the building that's going on in the state. So now all of a sudden we have new numbers, projected numbers. So this is a really important slide because I want everybody to look at what we went through in our third round. And if you look at the first line, it says third round 1999 to 2025. It's in that 20-something gap because when all of the stuff was going on with the rounds and Chris Christie abolishing and all that, nobody did anything. So then when the courts took it back over, they're like, you know what, that whole time when you weren't doing anything, those 15 years, that's called a gap year, you have to make up for that. So they gave us a number of 523 or 513. But that number is just affordable housing. And whoever's a builder in here knows that you're not just going to build affordable housing unless you're subsidized. So you take that number and you multiply it by 5 because it's a 1-to-5 ratio. So that basically was saying, Allendale, you have to build 2,500 homes. So we, of course, freaked out, lost it.
Just for relative, like in my head, how many units of housing are in the borough?
6,500.
Okay, so
Yeah.
2,500.
That's not.
I'm sorry, you're right. Thank you very much. Very sharp. 2,500. So it would have been
We
done.
would have to double the.
Yeah, we have about 2,500 homes and 6,500 population. Yeah. Well, exactly. So, but the funny thing is, so we negotiated down to 300. So they obviously knew that the 500 number was crazy. Negotiated down to 300, but then they said, guess what? We know you can't build 300. So we're gonna do what's called a realistic development potential, an RDP, and your realistic development potential is 54. So you're gonna have to build 54. So we already had, because of prior administrations, because of all our special needs housing, because of our senior housing, because we did what we were supposed to do all those years. And we've got Mayor Emeritus Liz White here. That was a big part of that. We were in really good shape. So we didn't have to build a lot because we already had all of these credits. So we were in good shape. But the part that you have to pay attention to is what's called the unmet need. So that unmet need number, 254, is what we have to watch out for. So what they do is they look at all the houses, they take a map and they look at all the green space all over your town. And they say you have to make that an overlay zone. Am I going too fast? Is there already, have any questions? What's called an overlay zone. So these are areas that are considered overlay zones. So if you look at them, you might recognize some of them. The one on the bottom, Franklin Turnpike, is the Church of the Guardian Angel.
We can't see them.
Pardon?
We can't see
We
them.
can't read them.
We can't read anymore.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Sure. The first one says it's 200 Heights Road, which is Rockland Electric. There's one on Albert Road, which is part of Ramsey Golf and Country Club. There's one on Burline Road, and there's one on Franklin Turnpike, which is Guardian Angel Church. So that means,
Numbers.
pardon?
The reason the numbers.
So the numbers on each one, the units on the 200 Heights is 141, the Albert Road is 79, Burline Road is 114, and the Guardian Angel is 135. So if Guardian Angel
If-
Church goes under, then it's zoned for 12 units per acre.
But the church would have to go under.
It would,
before they could do that.
However, there is some new rules in this fourth round that are saying if you have a piece of property that doesn't look like it's going to be developed, you're going to have to take some of that and then try to move it somewhere else. So we're still getting into the rules of the fourth round. And this
Question.
So why enforce that high density, housing? And that's what it's coming to be. You know, changing our suburbs into like an urban, city area.
So, that's the magic question. And, it's just evolved into this. And I have to say that all of our legislation has just let us down because nobody's tried to reform this in all the years. Nobody's taken leadership. Everybody's afraid to touch it. Chris Christie abolished it when he shouldn't. Corzine thought he was making a statement by getting rid of the RCA's, and Phil Murphy loves it. There's a statement that I actually have at the end of my slide deck that he says there's not enough building in New Jersey. We need more building. And what they are trying, it is turning our suburbs into cities.
One question.
Sure.
If none of those properties go under, do we have to provide an alternate state?
So that's what I'll be talking about momentarily. So we will have to, but this isn't over. This is the third round. So this is what I say to everybody. Like, when I'm gone, when you're all gone, whatever, in 10 years from now, all of a sudden, if these come up for 5 years, people are gonna be like, what the heck happened to New Jersey? It's not just Allendale though. It's everywhere. We're in actually much better shape. I was with about 15 mayors or 16 mayors today. And we're in really good shape. I mean, Park Ridge, they've got a development going in that I think is like 35 units per acre. Montvale is just reeling in all of the development because they have all of that space with all of the car dealerships.
And I think, Amy, to
Yeah,
add
please
that,
chime in,
no, but
everybody.
just saying that, I know people had talked about the development over where Black Millworks was, but that is part of the reason why, that with Mayor Liz White and Vince Barra, that was really thinking very much ahead, because had we not at least been able to meet our third round actual obligations, we would be in even worse shape. So, we don't like the ideas, but we've tried to really, as a town, be able to manage it, and it's just getting to a place where it is very out of control.
And that is something they're actually saying now, like, when all the mayors and stuff are talking, they're like, what you have to do is buy property so that you can kind of control it. But, how much property can you buy? A lot of towns are doing that, but, Black Miller is $14 million property. So
I think I'm missing a bridge, Liz, between the comment you brought up about millwork. How did that, we have a gap, Amy, right, of 254 housing that we have to put in between now and X some B, which hopefully will come. Right, and then, oh, you don't have.
yeah, no, we don't have that date.
Okay, so hopefully it'll be
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But anyway, so between now and X date, we have to put in 250 units. How is us taking over the millwork property,
helping us to solve the 254 problem.
It helped to solve the actual problem that we had. We had to have 54 units in order to be in compliance, which we did not have until we had
So
the
the
Black
affordable
Millwork
units-
property.
Some of the units at Black Millwork
Okay.
property have been due are low income.
That's what they are, yeah.
How many?
Yeah. Six, actually 6 plus 3, so we have technically 9,
9 out
the
of
3 of us,
how many?
70.
Okay, so.
But because we had all of our other units, so the reason that was such a smart move is because that would have been 350 units. So a builder would have came in and that would have been 350 units, and we would have had to make it 300. So it's trying to control it a little bit, but it's you're just trying to work it and doing the best you can and trying to think outside the box because it's not going away. It's just a shame because there is such a need and it would be nice to be able to fill that need in a way that, it's just so daunting. Like Suzanne and I were just driving around saying, okay, well, maybe we can put some housing here or some housing there, but the numbers are so big that you don't even know where to start. So some of the fourth round challenges. So the fourth round just got, did you have a question?
When you say you got like a 1-bedroom, that count as 1 unit or a 2-bedroom count?
So yes, you get credit for a 1-bedroom is 1 credit, a 2-bedroom is two credit. And like rental units, you get two for 1. So if you had a rental, it would be a 2 for 1 credit. For special needs, we had a 2 for 1 credit. Seniors, you got a 2 for 1 credit. So that's how you can kind of make up your numbers. But still, the numbers are in the hundreds. It's still, it's still a lot.
54 credits.
54 units.
So what is the income that's considered low income? Because we're back in Mount Laurel when they did model, right?
So there, I don't have that graph. But it's, they have all different levels. So they have low, moderate, and they have very low. And it depends like on the whole family too. So there's a whole big graph and you could actually just Google it and find it.
I think the reason why we're curious about it is because sometimes there's low like welfare, and then there's low like single surviving spouse firefighter.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Mhm.
We had all that.
Yeah, and we've done that. So we have our first responders. We actually have our veterans homes as well. But there is criteria and they kind of fall into that same under the fair share housing. Mhm. I think it's like,
So in Bergen, median is 84,000 for 1%. Very low is 25,000.
I think though it's important for us to realize that it's not about at least maybe speaking for myself, about what the economics are of anything. It's about the volume of just housing in general. It's about doubling, like it could be anybody, just putting in all those residences. It's just such a burden on the system. I mean, talking about the sewers and it's the infrastructure part is very hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's funny because I always wanted to put the schools on my slide because they don't there's absolutely no thought about the schools. They don't, that's not even, you can say that to you blue in the face and they don't care though.
Well, when the condos, my name's Flavis, I live with a retired teacher. And one of the, not related to this, but when the townhouses were built on the west side of the tracks by the railroad station, when those went up, the anticipated demand for school space for seats in schools was very, very low. And because of the nature, we're fortunate we have a very good educational system in and around Allendale and all the other towns. In came people, and it was full of kids. So there was a significant bump in schools. And
100%. We
know
well,
we do.
That's how we got into politics.
Down,
Yep.
and up it went, and it was pretty tight for a while until that bubble worked its way through. So that's another issue.
It is. It's a massive issue, but well, let me just go through some of the challenges on the fourth round and what we're dealing with as a municipality. And this all just went down, and we still don't have our actual numbers. We have projected numbers, and we're still absorbing it as well. So this is the fourth round. So this is what we do know, that in New Jersey, there's about 85 affordable units. That's going to be for the next 10 years, which is a 15% increase from the numbers from last year. So that's another 423 total units in the state of New Jersey. There's what's called urban aid communities and the Highlands that don't have to comply. So this is interesting because the urban aid communities, what falls under there is like Hoboken, Jersey City. So I don't know if you know those rents. My kids live there. Their rents are higher than the rents here, but they're still considered urban, aid community, and they don't really care because they don't have to comply. So they're like, let all the suburban towns like deal with it. The Highlands, they've managed to say, our water is pristine, our water needs to preserve, so they're completely out of the pocket too. So the rest of these other communities have to absorb all the rest of the numbers. Even like the part for me, it's like we already proved that we didn't have sufficient land because they said your realistic development potential is only 50, even though your numbers were 300. And we still now have to find more, even though they said we already don't have a realistic development potential is so low. The 2-for-1 rental bonuses is going to be eliminated. There's going to be a new bill that he's coming out with, Murphy, about accessory buildings. So there's kind of a pilot that he's trying where accessory buildings are going to be smaller buildings that people kind of put on their house or use their full houses and kind of rent them out to people and get credit. But the town doesn't get credit. So I'm not sure how that's going to go over. Hasn't passed yet, but that's something that's coming out.
Oh my God.
There's this part, actually, the next one is interesting. So it's called the program, and the program is kind of what COA is. But COA was like a balanced group, flawed as they may have been with some of the rounds, being confusing to our town. But the program, there's going to be 7 retired judges, and they're picked out by the Fair Share Advocates. So even when this whole bill was going down and it was going back and forth, and it became a partisan bill, and it was never partisan. Like COA was never partisan, and it became partisan, and it went right down the line, and it absolutely should not be. And there was one person who was a Democrat who was on the Republican side and who was actually on one of the committees, and they kicked him off. Like it was definitely a power play to get this pushed through. I talked to so many legislators. I'm like, how did this happen? And even an attorney that we are looking to retain, and he's just like, they really just made a mistake. It was just like really a terrible political move because they really didn't obviously do justice for their constituents. But one thing he did say that gives me a little bit of glimmer of hope is that if there is going to be a turning point, it's now, because everybody is just, all the mayor's faces even today were just like, the mayor from Montvale was just like racked because he was just like, he's actually starting, which is my last, a bullet point on another slide. He's actually starting some type of a lawsuit and trying to get everybody together. Basically, it's not rooted in reality. There's not even a market analysis. And it's a missed opportunity, quite frankly, to help the people that it does need. There's not a lot of oversight. The units that are the for sale units, they don't even monitor them. So the people that are in them, they could win the lottery the next day, and then they could stay in there. And a lot of times they do. They don't leave their apartments or houses. They stay in there. They rent them out, but there's absolutely no oversight.
What about when they would sell it?
If they sell it, that's what they're supposed to do. When they reach a certain income level, they're supposed to sell, and then somebody else would have a chance to go in there.
It's deed restricted.
Yeah,
Which is good.
They can only make a 10% profit.
Oh, that's right.
Mhm.
Somebody told me that they only do that once, and then it's.
When the deed expires,
No, it's a
then
30
they can
year.
sell it.
Usually it's 30 year.
What's gonna happen in 30 years?
Well, that's a good question, because we actually have one that we're trying to buy. The borough's trying to buy,
So we don't.
that
lose
the
it.
deed is actually expiring in 5 years. So if somebody else buys it before us, that after that deed is expired, then they can sell it for market rate. But don't even think about it, 'cause we're buying it. And quite frankly, the high rents are forcing out the middle class. So the rents are crazy. The Vale is going for $4,000 for a 2-bedroom. It's crazy. So it's forcing out the middle class in our suburbs. So it's just, there's a lot of flaws in the system. Our challenge is that our new projected number is 197, 200 affordable units. So that's our new number. Or if you multiply that by 5, that's 1,000 more units they want us to put into Allendale on top of what we have right now.
Oh, wait, it was 257. We already have 57. So now it goes to.
Now this is our new 3rd round.
That
So we're-
number is what? So 200
Fourth
minus
round.
50, so we only have to put in, we have to.
No, there's no minus, it's all add.
This is the new, we had 54, we met that number, and now we
We're
have
certified.
197.
So-
I can't believe that they, finances are not, I think.
So each round you have to get certified, and if you don't get certified by, so it's a judge, you go in there, there's a planner, there's a judge, you have to get certified. If you don't get certified, there's the builder's remedy comes in. That's when the builders know, and they're very smart, they know what towns are not certified, and they come by and they'll be like, you know what, you're not certified, I'm gonna sue you, instead of that 12 units per acre, it's 1 unit per acre now. There's lawsuits all over the place, and and the mayors that say are not taking it seriously, they're gonna hurt their community, because we have to take it seriously. This is a projected number, it's not the definite number yet, this is the number that was just given out in one of the mayor's meetings. But it would be the same thing, they're probably gonna say, this is your realistic development potential, and then this is what you have to put aside, and then they're gonna look for more empty space, which there really isn't any, and they're gonna use that as their budget.
So would the town government have to repossess land from private entities to make this happen? If we don't have the room in the.
That's a really good question. Some of our neighboring towns are doing that. There's one of our neighboring towns that are actually buying some bigger pieces of land, but they happen to be on the Allendale border and the Hohokus border, and not like in their center of town, but that's what a lot of towns are doing. They're actually buying land. But what some towns are doing, like Saddle River, for example, they're making 100% inclusionary properties. So they're all affordable. That's going to be costing the taxpayers a fortune. I mean, it's got to be in the millions, at least 10 or something $1 million. So there's 129 units going on Choctaw Trail, which is right on the end, in between Saddle River and Allendale. 100% inclusionary. And the issue with that, though, is Saddle River doesn't have the infrastructure for that type of development because it has sewers and it has septic. It has sewers and it has, septics and wells, not sewers. They want our sewers. We have sewers. So they want to come into our sewer. So we actually did this big agreement that we have to. And we just took 6 or so months to do this agreement and make sure Allendale was protected, that they had to increase our sewer line, they had to we had to pay money for infrastructure upgrades, et cetera, et cetera. We made sure that we were buttoned up in this agreement. Then they came back and there's another development that's right on Burleigh Road, 275 units, and they want to come through our sewer line. Mm-hmm. And they're being very aggressive, and we're like, okay, we have to make sure that we.
But how can we do that?
And this is before we would fill our own needs.
Exactly.
We have
So,
to commit them.
exactly.
So we can't get a.
None of this makes sense, so don't, I understand what you're saying, it makes no sense, and especially I can imagine if you're hearing it for the first time, it must be overwhelming.
Efforts to meet our legal obligations to, that's gonna put stress on our sewers, our roads, our.
100%.
So how are we taking a lawyer saying,
So
no?
we just retained a lawyer that specializes in this. We are working very closely and we're being very, very careful. But we can't do nothing. We can't just say, no, you're not using our sewer, because if we do that, they will sue and then they will win and then we will get nothing out of it. So we're trying to at least work with it, see what we can do. We're being very cautious, being very careful. We're not taking this lightly at all.
And I,
Silly question.
She's a sewer
Sewage
girl.
treatment plant in Walgett.
Mhm.
Have the capacity.
so Northern Bergen County Utility Authority probably does they have plenty of capacity. And so the challenge for us, I think, and we really have as a team been spending a lot of time looking at this with the latest agreement that we did. And we needed one of our sewer lines lined. And so that helps with taking on extra water, things like that. So that the initial contract that we did, we feel like it was beneficial for Allendale and it was beneficial for Saddle River doing 100% inclusionary. These new developments are very challenging because really, and there will probably be studies that will be done and they will have to be paid for by other entities. But the reality is that probably we would lose. And so we have to balance between because they will pull an inclusionary card and say they have to get to sewers. And so what we're trying to look at is saying, how do we manage the development that we are going to need to have and developments that are around us and ensure that any upgrades that are done, that we would not be paying, unduly burdened by them.
Saddle River doesn't have sewers, they have.
That's it.
That's it, so
Yeah.
nothing that would say, some piece of extensive logic that would say, please, you guys gotta put in sewers. Get rid of your
So,
septic.
so there is, but I mean,
Sure,
many
you guys
times,
were-
like even some of our sewage goes through Waldwick.
Yeah.
We actually accept sewage from Ramsey that goes
Yeah.
through, so there is a precedent set that you can and you do. I mean, when we built the sewers, so I guess the good thing is that we are talking with legal counsel. We are trying to, be as on top of it as we can. But we know that saying just no probably is going to come back and backfire, and it may end up costing us more than
And we'll get nothing.
figuring out a way. I think the thing I worry about a little bit is that, construction and putting in new pipes causes disruption in traffic flow and things like that.
My
Ultimately,
concern was that the Vale, I don't know what the take rate is on occupancy yet, but it's very high rents, right? $3,000-$4,000. And so when that gets fully occupied, those 80 units, that's gonna put a drain on our sewer already. That's one. But two, if we haven't met this requirement here, can they come in with that, we talked about Amy, with that rule and say, anything that is not taken yet has to be affordable housing, and then that's gonna drain our coffers. And I think that is a possibility, right?
no, that's what we're concerned about,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
why we're saying that we have to figure out.
have the infrastructure.
I think there's a question in the back.
They don't care.
If I heard you correctly, there's a decision that was made to put 200 units plus on Borough Line Road?
Yes.
Okay.
275.
How many?
275.
That's Saddle River.
That's Saddle River now.
So we're clear.
Saddle River, right next door. How are those people gonna get around?
Not-
Are we gonna have buses up and down Allendale Avenue?
So, I mean, that's part of the system. I think that it's not taken into consideration. Like I said earlier, there is a need for affordable housing, but to put 139 on the Choctaw Trail one, which is literally on Route 17, there's not even sidewalks there. So it's just not fully thought out. And, the people from Fair Share Housing Center, they just want to meet their quota. I mean, I talked to the one guy on the phone and he was just like, I don't care. I want Saddle River. I want that number. Saddle River didn't do anything yet. Like he was targeting them. I mean, he was like, they're going down type of thing. And we're like, wait a minute. But you realize that that's affecting my town, it's not just Saddle River. So, these are just the challenges. And we've been going through these challenges for 15 something years. It's just now, I mean, that last round, that third round, I think really put everybody in a tizzy in every town. And now that everybody's seeing all the building and they're seeing all the flooding and experiencing all the flooding and traffic, that's when now people are, and this is why we want to educate everybody. This is really just educational at this point. When there's a call to action, we'll let you know. But I mean, I've written to our legislators, I've written to the governor, a lot of the other mayors have as well. Question, Beth?
Yeah, thank you for the history. I'm just curious, like, from a practical standpoint, what has the state done if they're not compliant with these rounds? Are they withholding school funding? Are DED suing townships? Like, what are they doing?
So it's really the builders are there. The builders are funding Fair Share Housing Center, and it's really they're just being forced to build. They go to court and they lose.
Turnover, then what can they do? I mean, we've got 4 or 5 sites that have been identified. They never sell, but
So the state Supreme Court just mandated that Milburn build 300 units. And they don't care. They said it's going
This
here.
is the state.
Short
It's
Hills.
a town. It's a town.
It's part of Short Hills. And they
Yeah.
said, you're gonna put them here, you're gonna put them here, you're gonna put them here.
Right, but in our case, the gentleman's point, where would they, if, let's just say for argument, to make it simple, there's only guardian angel. Let's just say. Catholic Church doesn't want to give up the property. There's no property over Crestwood Lake. No, I'm just saying, let's make it simple. There's only one place, right? It's guardian angel. you don't have any place, nobody's down, blah, 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 and you even.
So they said, they'll say go up.
Yeah,
They
but
want
Guardian
town,
Angel
no,
takes
no,
it
no,
up.
they want you to go up on the infrastructure that you have. They'll have you redevelop in some other areas.
Like my house?
Go 4 or 5
They're
schools.
actually looking at, they're actually, there's talks about single family houses, like Saddle River has actually bought some single family houses that they're gonna make into multi-unit. So there's all certain things that are gonna
They
make
were
you do.
looking at in
The-
downtown, they wanted us to put 4 stories above our stores.
So it's
that
like
was part of
tunnels
what they
going
wanted.
down.
When we were negotiating back.
Private owner.
But-
Doesn't matter.
But private
well,
owners
they'll
will
buy-
sell
they'll
to
buy it.
businesses for the right number.
If the.
Private
if-
owners will sell.
If Joe Blow owns,
They
a
will.
continuation of four stores downtown, and he gets a developer that's gonna come in and give him, $2 million for property that's really worth maybe 500, he's walking,
And especially if he's not a resident, he doesn't care.
right?
So, somebody asked about the schools and the flooding and traffic and all that, like nothing really has, any teeth to it. What I was saying about, Governor Murphy, this is actually a quote from him. He said, our budget will increase funding for the construction of new affordable housing units all across New Jersey. We need to keep building because New Jersey is popular and the demand for housing continues to outpace the supply. And so what they actually do is, what the state is doing is they are subsidizing some of the 100% inclusionary development, but they're running out of money. Like it's already in the billions and like it's so much money. So it's like, when is it gonna stop? But, the one thing I just want you to, to remember, which is giving me hope and everybody hope, is that it is at a point now, I think, the fact that you're all here even listening to this, if anything is gonna happen, I think this is the time, because people are like, this can't happen anymore, because everybody's experiencing overcrowding. I mean, you can't even get from Allendale to Upper Saddle River anymore.
Organizations on the state level, not government, that are fighting these laws.
Well, that's what I'll get to in a moment. So, the last bullet there, a lawsuit from Montvale Mayor today said that he's thinking, he's looking to get a whole bunch I haven't even talked to council yet, actually, it just happened today. He's actually going on the 14th Amendment. He's trying to say, that basically that, you're not taking, it's not just taking care of one person, you have to take care of everybody. And he's, cause he was like, his face is like, his town has got completely, destroyed with all the housing. And, they're having actually some problem with, water pressure for fire suppression. But the key is though, that you have to get ahead of it. You can't ignore it. Suzanne and I went to a seminar down in Princeton, and then I think it was the mayor of Edison was like, screw that, we're not building. And we're like, you're gonna be, you're gonna get it. Like, there's just no way you can ignore it.
I think what was remarkable about that room was we had no idea the political affiliation of any of the mayors there. I mean, it was across the board, and everyone was on the same page when it came to this topic. And it wasn't just like rural, suburban versus rural and left and right. Everyone felt the same way. And the man sitting next to me was the mayor of, I can't remember what small town in South Jersey. He's like, Suzanne, he goes, we have like 1 or 2 homes that go up a year. Their mandate was, I think, 1,000 units that they want to put up in the middle of nowhere. Like, where is your access to public transportation? Where is the train nearby? Like, there's nothing that fits their affordable housing criteria, but they don't care because they're not really taking a look at the communities. These are just a formula mandate that gets put on.
I think the guy went on our last one, he was like some guy from Philly. He was like, what, 21? And he was telling us how many housing units that we had to put in.
Yeah.
Well,
We were really nice to him.
Statewide major.
Oh, yeah. So this is,
And so what is
a
are we
statewide issue.
supposed to do as citizens of Allendale, because we're watching we're paying huge taxes.
So this is what we're doing. So the actions, what we're doing is we're being proactive. Okay, so we are being proactive in this. I will tell you, I had a mayor's meeting here and on Saturday, and we were talking about this. And we had a lawyer, and a lot of mayors are just kind of sitting back, but we're not. We're moving forward. We have a special planner that we hired. We actually hired a special lawyer that is dedicated to this cause. He's actually helped a lot of municipalities get out of a lot of their very high density housing. we're actually doing a hazard vulnerability study. So there is a possibility that some environmental things will have some teeth. So if we can show about flooding and things like that, we might be able to get our numbers reduced. So that's why we actually started this last year. So we're doing that. We're attending seminars. We're getting as much education as we can. One of the suggestions was to go to the county planning board. So I'm organizing a bunch of mayors to go to the county planning board because that's the next level that might be able to help us. We're trying to educate the public. So this is what we're doing now. And there maybe have to be a call to action where we all have to write letters and things. We all did that, you know, on the mayor's level and above. But it didn't work. And I guess the part for me that was just so sad is that it was just such a power vote. And, you know, the people that voted for it are, you know, obviously didn't help their constituents. And, you know, even the lawyers are like, they're going to be like out there, people are going to know who they are because it's a shame. It really is a shame because we're all going to be like, what do we do to New Jersey? It's not the Garden State anymore. I mean, every piece of grass is going to be turned into high density housing. I mean, I just drove by Focus. That it's like a city block how long that huge development is. I mean, it looks cute from the front, but then just look in the back and you're like, it goes all the way to the back and to the right.
And that's one of the things we need to think of ourselves and tell our neighbors is if you're driving through town, imagine you're walking out of the AB&G and you're looking at 4 stories worth of buildings, or if you look at a property, as we said before, like Guardian Angel, and imagining several hundred units there, or some of our other open space, it's just, that's what you have to think in your head.
And
what it might be.
some of the, you know, the ideas that we had too, to kind of bring it to like a higher level politicians is kind of do like, I was saying, it's like, It's a Wonderful Life, you know, you saw the movie, like what it looked like, and then Pottersville, and then kind of show like, this is what it looks like, and this is what New Jersey is going to look like. And because people just don't get it, like, it's just not clicking with a lot of people, unfortunately. Joe?
You can talk about, I mean, the number of units across the state is not, look how hard to do. I mean, that's pretty challenging on the
The what?
Whether the need,
Oh, need. No, that's what I was. There's no market analysis that even shows that, yes, that's part of the problem too.
That's part of the big challenge. Coming up with numbers that are unrealistic and to your point, they don't provide who are the people how many are there?
And that's where I think we all need to do like our homework, like in Allendale, like that's what we plan to do, because we're going to be meeting with the Fair Share Housing Plan, and we have to go in front of the judge, and we have to do that. So we have to tell our stories. We're just not going to go in and be like, here, you know. So that's why we're doing this hazard study. That's why we're, you know, attending all these seminars and getting all this data, so we can show a great story of why, you know, we cannot in Allendale have this many housing.
I get that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned Hocus, Saddle River, is Highlands at all here? There's going to be an influx of students coming in.
So,
affordable housing.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, Highlands gets tuition, so they're probably not too upset. But will it put it over the next level where you have to start hiring more teachers? You know, very much could. The 275 in Saddle River is no doubt going to be affecting their Wandell school. No question. That school's already at capacity.
Isn't that, they're tearing down the building there, right?
They are, yeah. We're
Well,
meeting
they're
with the
tearing
developers
down
next
the
week.
building. Yep. they're
Well, that's
tearing
the
down
proposal.
Right.
Oh, I thought they were repurposing.
Oh, I thought they were
You
tearing
can't.
down.
No, you can't. It's opposite.
All environmental stuff.
How are they gonna provide water to those towards the units if they work on well?
So they don't. Saddle River, the new developments in Saddle River, most homes are on well, but Veolia does come through. In fact, our water that we get from Veolia, as you know, we only, you know, get 50% of our water from our wells. The other 50% actually comes through Saddle River. That's where the interconnect is. So they do have some homes that are on, and like the Borough Line Marriott and the office building currently, they're all on regular, they have water.
Quick question, so if is the Vale's occupancy high now? I mean,
I know the one bedrooms are rented out, and I'm not sure, they're struggling with the two bedrooms, because I know they're giving away 4 months for free.
Right, I saw that. Okay, so I guess that plays either positively or negatively.
Well, that was all figured out, like with each development, you have engineers and stuff, and they know what the flow and all that's gonna be, so that,
No, I
that's-
wasn't talking about from the utility
Oh.
perspective. I'm saying about from our gentleman's point of need, right? If we can't rent out the Vale, if we can't get 100% or 80% or better occupancy of the Vale, then that says there's no real need to have. people
right, and that's
coming in.
data that we could potentially use, or we could potentially,
But
you know,
what they
buy
would
them.
say is, they would say, well, if they were affordable units, they would be rented.
Yeah, but then we can drop the price and.
Well, it's not, we don't know.
We don't know it. It's not ours.
Yeah, it's owned by, we don't own it, we sold it to a developer. It's 4 stories.
So does our volunteer fire department have capacity to fight? Yes. My brother, I bring this up because my brother is the building inspector in another state. And it was an old downtown area. They were trying to redevelop and they wanted to go too high. And so that's how they keep the height of the buildings down.
Mm-hmm,
Volunteer firefighters
right,
here, and we don't have the equipment, fire safety.
yeah. I mean, that was all looked, right, yeah, no, it was, I mean, and we have a ladder truck, and the other towns, you know, right near us all have, you know, ladder trucks and stuff, but all of that is always looked into before something's developed, but it's all good, like that's, I mean, if they wanted to build something that was 5 stories or even taller, it could potentially be something that we could use. Yeah.
I'm thinking downtown, I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, New Rochelle is so proud to say how many high-rise buildings they've built in their downtown. They've completely changed the character of that.
yeah, there's a lot of, yeah. They do talk about that town a lot, actually, New Rochelle, yeah,
Yeah, they're proud of it.
yeah,
But what, maybe they have professional firefighters there. I don't know.
yeah. Well, buildings sometimes are sprinklers, but.
I'm just assuming you're gonna use the environmental part too, with the sustainability in 2050 that the federal government is working on. I mean, I'm sure the footprint, the carbon footprint, everything else has got to be some kind of impact on the community.
Yeah, I mean, that's where I think we can. I mean, that's how the Highlands, you know, was able, we have to make Allendale UNESCO site. Pete,
You mentioned it before, but I just want to reiterate, like, as soon as there's something we can do, like, let us know, because we're all feel just as helpless
Yeah.
as you do. So, like,
yeah, and this is probably the first, you know, like, this is to be continued. I mean, that 197 number is a projected number. The real numbers are coming out October 20th. Then we actually have to be certified. We have to actually figure out our plan by January 31st of 2025. So at least I'm a mayor for 2 years and I've been on the council. Can you imagine being a new mayor coming into a town and then getting these numbers and being like, what do you mean I have to do? What do I have to do in 30 days?
And I
So-
would say, don't hesitate contacting all of the legislators in the government now and tell them you just heard about it, that you're outraged and, you know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just keep talking it up
keep
because a
saying
lot
it.
of people just don't know.
The
good thing is-
other than, you know.
Well,
the-
Holly Shapizi is fighting the good fight, I think, on our behalf on this.
Well,
She's
there-
kind of a lone gong.
She really is. I mean, for years she's been trying to get in there and fight it, and nobody wanted to touch it.
Holly should.
Holly Shapizi, she's our state senator.
She's been a senator when we moved there.
So what were the other alternative sites? Because you said there are 4 sites there, but you guys have to look for alternative sites. So I'm assuming Crestwood Lake would be.
No, because it's not, we own it.
And so what would be an alternative site? Presume, do you have that list?
Where is it?
Yeah.
I saw him somewhere.
Yeah.
There he is in the back.
So they target nurseries, they target.
Nurseries, golf courses,
Golf
churches.
courses, yeah.
Yeah, but that, you know,
Yes.
I think with the churches, can we use like freedom of religion, like use a whole freedom of religion thing to make sure they don't take it?
I think right now it's unless the church changes use.
Right.
Oh, yeah. They're not taking
Yeah,
taking
they
priests
can't
out.
enforce anything.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, that's why if you're Catholic, go to Guardian Angel Church. I go to the carnival every single night. Actually, I go there for dinner. I'm like, why don't we go to the carnival for dinner again?
Doesn't matter.
They need money.
Exactly, all of them.
So, I mean, I'm happy to talk about this offline too, if anybody wants to talk about, I don't know if there's any other topics that people want to talk about. There was a bunch that were, sent in. If anybody has any other questions, or we can still talk about this. This is, whatever you guys want, your time, casual.
Could they use our public parks? They request that they be built on?
So not if the borough owns them. So the borough owns the parks. So we own the park, we own Crestwood Lake, so that's not gonna be touched. So that's why a strategy is to buy up some more land. But land in Allendale is not cheap. But
Right, but you guys could, like, my neighbor sells, she's got a huge amount of property. Right, so if she sold and somebody built and wants to live and put up 4 stories, that can happen.
not if it's not zoned for that, no. But the borough could potentially buy that and say that we're gonna use that as one of our sites, if it's like a property that's maybe 3 or 4 acres.
But that was part of a federal plan, housing plan, to be able to do just that. Even if it's zoned for residential one family, that plan was to be able to go into those areas and do exactly what you just said, go up.
That's great.
Yeah, there's some sites, that's Saddle River, and I keep saying Saddle River, that they bought that are actually next door to,
Basic
houses.
residential.
Yeah.
Wow.
We abate taxes on these properties for right of first refusal of violence.
Can we abate taxes for right of
So if
first?
you go to a garden center, you say, we'll abate your taxes for 10 years, but we want right of first refusal to the property.
I like that idea.
We don't.
Any lawyers?
It's certainly something to think about.
So actually, the lawyer, I'm really excited about the new lawyer that we hired. He's actually down in Point Pleasant, but he came up here to talk, and he's just so knowledgeable and has been doing this for so long. He actually went to every single meeting when they had this new bill up, and got his 3 minutes, and he said he got up there to speak every 3 minutes to say what he had to do. And he wasn't saying like, get rid of the whole plan. He's like, this just isn't working. This isn't a great plan. Let's just try to work out to get a better plan together. But there's just too much political power, with our governor.
I agree, but that's good.
Yeah,
Because
so,
we need things like that, like we need the right of first refusal on Rosser's, we need it on the properties on, Calvary Church,
yeah,
right?
so.
What's your name?
Are you alive?
Hired, they're hired.
But then you need the money to buy it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I'm like,
I mean,
Yeah,
when we bought Black Millwork,
Yeah, it's a little bit of an issue.
we doubled the debt, okay? We doubled the debt. That was scary. But
and
we
took a
were,
lot of heat for it, honestly.
But
A lot of like,
yeah,
what are
a
you
lot
guys
of heat.
doing? And it was the
luckily we found a developer.
hard.
Maybe to that point, the open space trust fund that we had talked
Yeah.
about. If that is something that the residents of Allendale was like, we really want to get behind preserving some land, there is a mechanism for that. It would mean adding a little something to your taxes, and then that money goes into an open space trust fund that we can use for such things.
I think that I would be comfortable more on voting, like on a priority list to say, okay, if A doesn't happen, hey, what would I prefer next? Would I prefer to have my 2-acre piece of property next to me be sold and then converted from residential to commercial potentially? Or would I prefer that little common grass area to go away by the acme? I would definitely say the common grass area. Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. That's like, I think it's pretty unrealistic that we'd be able to put out to the little community, like, which piece of property would you like developed? Because it doesn't work.
A handful
It
of
doesn't-
pieces of property, so versus coming into anybody's own particular street or road in Allendale and saying, okay, well, that road was set.
But that's why
Yeah.
we for years worked on land use, and that's why still they work on land use, laws to make sure that, what is developed, what you're allowed to do. And what that is, that's what the governing body has done and made sure that if it is that certain percentage of acres, you can only build a certain amount.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd have to come before the land use board
Yeah.
to get a variance. So,
Okay.
So
you
the,
know,
the zoning
so
is
it's not-
there
yeah, the
already,
zoning is
and,
there.
and you can see what's been an overlay zone. I
Right.
mean, and it's just unfortunate
Yeah.
what's transpiring.
but the last time we went through this for round 3. I mean, I worked with Liz on this. They came in, they made us develop a map of the town and identify every sliver of land, like around power lines, around, I mean, every sliver of land that they thought we might be able to squeeze, a property, a building in on. And they were talking about a third and fourth, layer in town. And I said to this young lawyer, I was like, he said, well, we want you to build towards, next to the train so people can commute into the city. And I said, really? How much is a monthly ticket to Hoboken? He had no idea. How much is a PATH train? How much is the ferry? We can't communicate to you enough how there's such a disconnect between what they want us to do and the reality of it all. Like it was astonishing and so frustrating to us to try to negotiate with these people where they really didn't care about infrastructure, water, sewer, schools. I mean, it's insane to think that they didn't care about it, they didn't consider it. And I said to them, why don't you look to like Central Jersey, where there's a lot of land, make the developers put in short line, like bus lines or train lines or something. Like there's other options than developing already developed areas.
And that's why the RCA's were really, I think, a really
The
good
RCA's
compromise
were great,
where, you could actually, not gentrify a city, but like help where the economic hub is, which is the cities, and the suburbs, keep the suburbs green.
And what they did is the RCA's went into places like Patterson where there were homes that could be redeveloped and, and people would meet the right criteria to stay there. And, that was good stuff. And, they just threw that right out.
Said the other development that was going in Saddle River at the O'Donnell property on a blind corner. Again, we've said it before, there's no sewer, there's no water, and you're on a blind corner, like you're heading up to Woodcliff Lake with no sidewalks, no public transportation.
And they might have some door sewer too.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other questions about anything else, or we can still talk about this?
Not a question, but a comment, Amy. At one of these other meetings you mentioned, and I think it bears repeating, that Allendale, thanks to our leadership, is one of the few towns that's met this requirement.
Well, we were only one of 6 municipalities that actually did get certified in the 3rd round before like all that stuff happened.
Amazing.
So that's why that's why we're like done, that's why we're okay. I mean, a lot of towns, like I said, they don't even have, a lot of them don't even have they haven't even started. They haven't even started yet.
600 and something.
600 and some,
566
municipalities. But remember, they're not all, because the urban ones and some of the coastal towns don't have to, in the Highlands towns. But, so there's a question back.
Is there a place you can find more information for details on the right now?
Well, it's true. And, they also had another site when we had our 2nd round that was by Hillside School, and it was all wetlands. And then they came back and we said, you know what, you can't really develop here. So it was almost like we had to just throw this together, if you will, even though we did plan very well, but it was like, all right, just put that there, just put that there. And we had this tight deadline. And like I was saying before, if you didn't meet the deadline, then you had the builder's remedy. So like when you say you have a gun held to your head, you really kind of had a gun held to your head, because if you didn't, you put the town in so much jeopardy. And we saw all these other towns that were going through that. So I know exactly. Some of them I'm like, how are you going to get to the street?
And part of it really was that knowing you couldn't develop, that was kind of okay to put it there, that it really wouldn't, but they were targeting golf courses. So that is part of the Ramsey County.
Because they knew they might flip.
Right.
And then part of like what we were talking about, what Liz was saying before with the sewer, like if we just said to this Avalon Builders, like, absolutely not, we're not even talking to you, they're a big developer, they've done this before, they could come after us. We have to make sure that we're, smart about this. And because if it's going to happen anyway, we want to make sure it's not going to get shoved down our throat, and that we're going to get protected and whatever infrastructure upgrades we're going to get. So you just have to be really smart about it.
Well, just elaborate a little bit more. You guys are at that seminar on the accessory buildings.
Yeah, it's a pilot program. They're not putting a lot of money into it. I think they're only putting like 20 million into it. So I'm not like too worried about that right now, but it's just something else that, you know, possibly that they're doing. We, you know, you can't because all of their laws will trump all of our laws.
Even though we do have an ordinance in place for short-term rentals. So,
Usually it does.
Good job, thank you. Thank you.
Water, come on. I want to talk about water.
Fundraiser tomorrow night, or June, when's the next fundraiser?
June 15th is the Dine the Dale fundraiser for the mural project. We're gonna close down Main Street. And we're gonna, have all the restaurants participate. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Thank you for bringing that up. And Crestwood Lake registration is open. And we have a lot of great bands planned for this summer.
And you guys are awesome for coming. Like, seriously, thank you so much.
But I also want to say all of us are really accessible. Please feel free to email any one of us. Our emails are all on the website. Bye, you guys. If you have any questions, please We have two more of these coming up, and I don't remember. September and November.